I hear the old saying, well, gee whiz, if I just keep that ball in play, eventually I'm going to lose a point because the opponent's going to put it away. If you say it that way, just keeping the ball in play, I agree with you. But I'm not saying that. What we're going to show you in this video is keeping the ball in play with a purpose. You're going to move the opponent, you're going to hit it back behind him, you're going to hit spins, you're going to hit short shots. That's what we mean by keeping the ball in play. And you're going to do that until you create that opportunity for the ball that you feel comfortable to do something with. And you know what? Quite often, keeping the ball in play requires you to be in a little better physical condition, as well as mentally, to stay into the game and wait for that opportunity. So don't tell me keeping the ball in play means you're going to lose. But keeping the ball in play without a purpose, you probably will lose. So we're going to change that mentality.
Most players who know how to apply strategy and compete well love to play against opponents that always go for big winners. Why? Because winner-oriented players are really competing against themselves and statistics. Unless they are having an unbelievable day, most of the time the winner-oriented style opponent will accumulate far more errors than winners through the course of a match. Playing this type of player calls for a simple and basic strategy. Play consistent and take every opportunity to force the opponent into difficult situations for them to have to hit those winners to beat you. So don't let a few winners by the opponent in the beginning of a match frighten you out of building points. Stay on your game plan and remember that the percentages are on your side. If the opponent does happen to rise to your challenge, hitting more winners than errors from those difficult forcing situations you created, you know you've done the best you can do. The opponent was a better player that day and deserves the win.
Just sort of focus on you, or do you pay any attention to the opponent?
I don't really pay attention to the opponent. I play my game. I mean, if he beats me that day, it means I wasn't able to beat him. He's better that day. But I think for the match, I just focus on my game.
I think when juniors play a match, a lot of times they forget about a checklist, and that is the ratio of unforced errors to forcing shots are to winners. So in other words, if they're beating themselves, they have to have an awareness that, hey, I'm not getting enough balls in play. Let's get that ball back in play. And a lot of times that's good enough. On the other hand, if a player is getting the ball in play and they're playing against a player that has some weapons, then and that's not good enough, then they either have to add pace to their own shots, get the ball deeper, or maybe move that player a little bit more in a way where they're not always on the defensive end of the point. So having a checklist of their winners or their forcing shots along with their opponent's forcing shots and also unforced errors. So I think all of those come into play as far as knowing what is happening and who's doing what to whom in point play.
Well, I think first of all, it's a matter of the coach taking a look and see what characteristics are that they already have genetically built in. If they're big and strong, then we might push them more towards all-court player serve and volley. But you know, instincts tend to always come out. They always say you can't change the stripe on a zebra, and you want to try to put them in a stressful situation and then talk to them about it afterwards and say your instincts pushed you behind the baseline, or either your instincts brought you in based on the stress level.
They have to know their strengths, what they do well, what they're trying to establish out on the court. They have to know their weaknesses, a way to cover that up or camouflage a certain shot or aspect of the game that they don't do well. So in other words, an aggressive baseliner, someone that likes to hit big forehands, needs to understand that when they play points, they want to control the point with their forehand, either by sheer power, if they're consistent, or by using patterns.
I think there's two types of strengths. One strength is a controlling part of your game. If you've got one stroke that's more consistent than the other, that's a strength in itself, being able to keep balls in play all the time. It's your controlling part. It's to set up maybe a big weapon that you have. If you have a huge forehand but you don't get it in a lot of times, it's something that you need to develop. You need to work on it. You wouldn't consider it a weakness, because I think power is also one of the other strengths. So you've got consistency being one of your strengths and power being one, and then trying to develop both of those to complement each other. As part of our system here at the Academy, one of the things we do at a young age with our kids is try to make sure that they develop all the skills necessary that's going to take them through all their levels of play. It also helps them to determine which style they're better at and which style maybe they have a little bit of weakness in. For instance, here we're doing a serve and volley, first and second serve, for a complete set that we actually record down. So it's not their style of play, but they're developing a skill that they might even use as an option later on when they're playing against an opponent that necessarily doesn't like somebody attacking, and they're finding themselves getting beat at the baseline, so they can change their game and play a different style that attacks the weakness of their opponent.
In the course of building points, there are strategic options you have within each phase. Using these options to create variety in your game plan will help you maintain control and keep the opponent guessing throughout a match. Let's first look at the strategy behind the use of the serve. Typically, players tend to think of a first serve as hard and flat, and the second serve as a spin serve used to avoid a double fault. Thinking this way increases the predictability, allowing returners to anticipate what's coming. In baseball, for a pitcher to be effective, they avoid being predictable by using a variety of pitches. Their options are to change the spin of the ball, the speed of the ball, and the placement of the pitch in the strike zone. In tennis, the server has the same options. On a first serve, changing the spin, pace, and placement of the ball will work to reduce the effectiveness of the returner. Mixing the use of spin and pace on the first serve will make it difficult for the returner to establish timing. In addition, your selection of different placements on the serve can affect the positioning of the returner, allowing you to attack a weakness as well as add predictability to the direction of the return. Maintaining a high first serve percentage is important because the pressure shifts towards the server when hitting a second serve, giving the returner an advantage. On second serve, the use of spin is highly recommended because the spin action will help bring the ball down into the court to avoid the double fault. Your options include the slice and the kick serve, as well as rotating the placement of your second serve to establish variety. Getting the point started on the return of serve is a very challenging task against a consistently strong server, because you only have fractions of a second to react and execute, so positioning is key. Your position in the court will vary based on the strength of the server, your strengths on return, the two styles of play, and the strategy involved. In general, you will position yourself to be halfway between the most extreme placements of the serve. The depth of your position in the court on the return will vary with strategy and styles of play as well. Most players will benefit on returning a first serve by simplifying the strokes using the pace that's already on the ball, with a predetermined target zone in mind. Returning second serves allows the returner to be more aggressive with the stroke and the position they take in the court. On the big points, good returners will often use their position in the court to apply added pressure on the server, influencing the server's decision on where and how they will hit the serve. The shot selection a returner chooses for both the first and second serves will depend on the strategy they have in mind. Hitting returns cross-court works well for getting into a rally, while returning a second serve down the line often gives the returner the opportunity to immediately attack the net. Based on your shots and patterns that are good for your position in the court, as we discussed in Winning with Your Game Part 1, let's look at our options within the rally. A decision you must make early in the match is whether the forehand cross-court pattern or the backhand cross-court pattern will work best for you in building points. This decision will be determined by your strengths and weaknesses, your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and the opportunities you are trying to set up. In general, you can anticipate that a ball hit deep cross-court to your opponent is likely to come back cross-court or down the middle. If the opponent hits the ball down the line, look for an opportunity to hit cross-court to take control of the point. When a ball is hit down the center of the court, that player has the option of which pattern to set up. If the opponent hits repeatedly to the center of the court, you have the option to hit from corner to corner, putting the opponent on the run. You should adjust your down-the-line balls in the rally unless they are point-ending shots to allow you time to recover. It is likely that any down-the-line ball you hit will cause a change of direction in the rally as your opponent responds with a cross-court shot. As you maintain good court position and work to create opportunity balls within the cross-court patterns, your options are to adjust the spin, pace, and trajectory or height of your shots. Working with this variety will help create the opportunity you are looking for. Angle shots can be used effectively within the rally to force the opponent out of position, often allowing you to take control of the point.
I think it's true about any 3, 5, or 4 player. You've got to have the shots there and be able to hit them every time. I mean, if you have a shot and you can't hit it 8 out of 10 times, you don't own the shot, you probably shouldn't be attempting it when you're trying to win a big point.